Hello everyone. So today our lesson is on hydrocarbons and biomolecules. So we'll start off with what are hydrocarbons. So hydrocarbons are kind of exactly what they sound like. They are molecules that are only composed of carbons and hydrogens. So this can be actually subdivided into two classes. So saturated, which is ones that only contain single bonds and they rarely ever go chemical changes. These are called alkanes. So I have an example over here on the top right. That this molecule is called ethane. You can see that they're all single bonds and contain no double or triple bonds. So that makes it a saturated hydrocarbon. Next we have unsaturated. These contain double bonds, triple bonds, and aromatic hydrocarbons. So double bond, any molecule, any hydrocarbon with a double bond is called an alkene. So we have an example over here. This is called ethene on the bottom right here. And then next to ethene we have ethyne, which is an alkyne, which is if you have a triple bond. And there's also aromatic hydrocarbons. So here on the bottom left, we have what is called benzene. So these have three double bonds, and these two pictures are actually the same thing. But most of the time when you draw molecules in line form or whatever, you usually draw the one with the circle in the middle. And these can undergo many chemical reactions. These three, the alkenes, alkynes, and aromatic hydrocarbons, they can because they have these double and triple bonds, they can undergo much more chemical reactions and changes. So, so the bonds, how are they represented? So a sigma bond represents a single bond, and a pi bond represents a double bond. So you're probably wondering, how do you represent a triple bond? So that is a 1 sigma 1 pi bond. So yeah, I have an example here. This is the one on the left over here is a sigma bond. For ethene in the middle is a pi bond. And then the one on the very right for ethyne is a 1 sigma 1 pi because it's a... So let's move on to biomolecules. So we won't delve too deep into this because that's more biology. We'll just focus on the chemistry side of it. So biomolecules are complex organic compounds that are essential to biological processes. They're also called macromolecules because of how big they are. So there are four types of biomolecules over here. And so there are carbohydrates. I'll just go from left to right. Carbohydrates, protein, nucleic acids, and lipids or fats. So carbohydrates. So what are carbohydrates? They are classified as sugars, starches, and fibers. Examples are glucose, fructose, cellulose, and the general molecular formula for it is CXH2XOX. So an example over here we have on the right. This would be represented by C6. This would be C6 H12O6. So X would be 6. So for the hydrogen, you just multiply 6 by 2, and you'd get C6H12O6. And then down here we have cellulose, which is a long chain of multiple carbohydrates put together. Sorry, like a long chain of glucose, fructose, all that put together, which forms a large carbohydrate. So fats and lipids, they're the same thing. It's two names. So these are classified as fats, oils, and waxes. They make up the building blocks of the function and structure of living cells, and they're mostly hydrocarbon based, and they're made up of only carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen atoms. Most fatty acids will have an OH at the end, hydroxyl group. And as you can see over here, there's different types. So the picture on the left, you can see the top one is unsaturated, and the one on the the one that's pointing to the left arrow, the down, that is unsaturated, and this one is the one on the right of that is a trans configuration of it, double bond. And the one over here we have is the phospholipid bilayer, which is the wall, which is on the cell wall, and that's a fatty acid as well. So proteins. Let me get to proteins. So these are chains of amino acids, and they are essential to building muscle mass. So you've probably heard, like, if you want to build muscle, you should have a lot of protein, and that is exactly what it is. So amino acids are the building blocks for protein. So these are all the amino acids over here that we have on the right. You don't have to memorize those. I just put those up so you get an idea of what proteins are made out of. They're just very, very long chains of these amino acids. So amino acids make the peptide chains, which make the polypeptide chains, which make the proteins. And the amino acids are connected by peptide bonds. So on the bottom over here, you can see that is a protein. It looks pretty cool. It's like that because it's such a long molecule. That's the only way it can be represented. You can't even see like the individual atoms. And last we have is nucleic acids. So nucleic acids they store genetic information and allow the production of protein. There are two types, DNA and RNA. So the one we have on the very right is DNA, and the one that we have in the middle, that's RNA. So they are composed of long strands of nucleotides. So the nucleotide is a single unit for each one, and there's 4 types of nucleotides. So there's adenine, guanine, cytosine, and thymine or uracil. So in DNA it's thymine, but in RNA uracil takes its place. Okay, so we move on to monomers. So a monomer is a single basic unit of a polymer. A polymer is a general term for the large molecule. So you kind of tell mono means one, and poly means multiple, and mer just means unit. So monomer means a single unit, polymer means many units. So I'm gonna list each monomer for each macromolecule here. So carbohydrates, the monomer is the monosaccharide. So as you can see from the 4 pictures, the one on the bottom left, that is the 3 monomers. So there's glucose, galactose, and fructose in the middle. And then for lipids, it's glycerol and fatty acids. So right above the picture of the monosaccharides is an example of a fatty acid. You can see that these are not small molecules. When you think of monomer, you might think it's just a single atom, but that's not the case. It's just one unit. Monomer can be any size. You can say when you let's say you have a bunch of markers and you're sticking them together like you can do with markers. Each marker is a monomer, and then when you put them a bunch together, it makes a polymer when you make the long stick. Next we have is protein, amino acids, as we talked before. Here's another picture of all the amino acids on the top right. And last we have is nucleic acids. The monomer is nucleotide, and we've talked about this before. There's 4 types of nucleotides, and here's an example of one over here on the bottom right. Yep, that's it for today.